In the early days of CBS, the network promoted itself as a one-stop destination for all sorts of entertainment, from drama series, or soap operas as they were later dubbed, in the daytime hours to numerous programs of all shapes and sizes in the evening. They had a separate division dedicated to the news. Over the decades, CBS has put on the air some of the most popular and culturally influential programs in American history, like I Love Lucy, MASH, Magnum P.I., The Big Bang Theory, and The Late Show. When a corporation hires so many people and creates so much content, they're virtually bound to generate a little controversy eventually. So we've done our research and come up with some of the shocking, embarrassing, and eyebrow-raising scandals in the long, storied history of CBS. An actor died on the set of a 1980 CBS drama. CBS made sure they had their answer to NBC's action drama series Remington Steele, a show about an urbane thief turned international private eye. The show was called Cover Up, which was also an action drama with John Eric Hexum in the leading role as Mac Harper, an elite military agent who worked as a spy and a male model on the side. Tragedy struck in October 1984 after the show had already been plagued by numerous delays and other hurdles. Hexum decided to take a nap, hoping that when he woke up, the crew would be ready to let the cameras roll. But they weren't, and that made him livid and a tad bit impulsive. In an overdramatic display of his frustration with the situation, he picked up a prop gun and held it to his head. After uttering the snarky remark, "Can you believe this crap?" he pulled the trigger, not knowing that a prop gun could still pose a danger to his well-being. Even though the weapon didn't fire an actual bullet, it still let out a ton of force, lodging a bone fragment from Hexum's cranium into his brain, resulting in severe hemorrhaging. After being rushed to Beverly Hills Medical Center and undergoing a 5-hour brain surgery, Hexum died. He first slipped into a coma but was pronounced dead 6 days after the accident. CBS tried to keep the show alive by bringing in a new recruit, Jack Stryker, played by Anthony Hamilton, but audiences weren't impressed, and Cover Up was canceled at the end of the season. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like, and be sure to subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. And stay tuned to find out what popular TV shows were given the boot during CBS's infamous Rural Purge. CBS fired a star of one of their hit shows because she wanted her child to be around. In 1979, CBS had a sitcom called House Calls, boasting a powerhouse cast and talented team of accomplished writers. It was a lighthearted romantic comedy about a debonair physician named Dr. Charlie Michaels and his love interest, Ann Atkinson, a sophisticated administrator who worked for the hospital. The show starred ex-MASH cast member Wayne Rogers and Academy Award-nominated actress Lynn Redgrave. In 1981, Ann and Charlie's romance came to a crashing halt at the beginning of the show's third season. Ann was cut, and her absence was explained away via a letter that Charlie read aloud at the beginning of the episode. Apparently, she had decided to move back home to England all of a sudden. But the real reason for Ann's leave was because Redgrave left the show after 2 seasons, following months of tension with Universal Television, the parent company responsible for the series. Universal told People magazine they had given Redgrave the axe after she requested a doubling of her salary. Even if she had managed to convince them of the raise, she still would have made far less than her co-star Rogers. After turning down the studio's quote-unquote generous counteroffer, she decided to call it quits and exit her contract voluntarily, or at least that's one side of the story. But according to Redgrave's husband and manager John Clark, the studio simply didn't want to have to deal with his wife's demands. She had just had a child and wanted her baby to be on set with her so she could keep up with breastfeeding. She also requested the studio provide her with a place to accommodate that. Additionally, she wanted a driver and a nurse on the premises at all times. When Universal declined to meet her demands, Redgrave walked. The time when Dan Quayle went after a CBS star. Murphy Brown was a CBS sitcom that centered around a caustic TV journalist portrayed by Candice Bergen, who spoke the truth to the rich and powerful. It hit the airwaves in 1988, just days after 41-year-old Dan Quayle was elected vice president, and Murphy Brown's writers decided to go after Quayle with a joke at the VP's expense in every episode as a running joke. They perceived him as being young, relatively unknown, and as being a bit of a bumbling idiot. As you can expect, Quayle didn't take kindly to this kind of treatment. One of the show's writers, Corby Siamis, came up with the theory that Quayle likely got his feelings hurt from the constant low blows and his negative remarks directed towards Murphy Brown in a 1992 speech equated to retaliation. The speech was delivered by the vice president shortly after the Rodney King riots went down in L.A. According to the Washington Post, Quayle, who spoke at the Commonwealth Club of California, blamed much of what was wrong with the world at the time on the destruction of traditional family values, which in his opinion was in part caused by the fictional single mother Murphy Brown. He went as far as to say that Murphy was the epitome of today's smart, well-paid professional women who mock the importance of fathers by bearing a child alone out of wedlock. Diane English, the show's creator, responded to his statement by releasing a statement of her own, where she told the vice president that if he finds it so repulsive that an unmarried woman would bear a child, he'd better make sure that abortion remains safe and legal. When 60 Minutes squared off against the tobacco industry. Over the years, 60 Minutes, the popular evening news magazine program, has exposed and reported on countless business scandals, but none have been as dramatic as the time they decided to take on the tobacco industry. They even made a movie about that particular chapter of TV history called The Insider, which hit theaters in 1999 and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. The year was 95, and 60 Minutes sat down with Jeffrey Wagon, a man who claimed he had been fired from his career working as a researcher at the tobacco company Brown & Williamson, after helping them to develop a healthier cigarette. Big Tobacco had testified before Congress that nicotine was not an addictive chemical, but Wagon refuted the idea, alleging Brown & Williamson had long been aware, in part due to his research, that smoking had a detrimental effect on human health. He also said they did everything in their power to suppress that data. The interview landed 60 Minutes in a ton of hot water because when Wagon departed the tobacco company, he had signed a non-disclosure agreement. The producers expected Big Tobacco to hit them with a long, drawn-out, and costly legal battle, so they ordered their underlings not to air the interview. When the Wall Street Journal uncovered this cover-up about a cover-up in January 1996, 60 Minutes decided to air the Wagon interview a week later. The infamous Rural Purge. In the 60s, CBS had a lineup of shows that appealed to aging audience members who lived outside of the major metropolitan areas. The slate of shows included westerns like Gunsmoke and other sitcoms that took place in rural regions like Lassie. The Beverly Hillbillies was another show in this rustic lineup. From 1968 to 69, half of the top 30 shows on the air were produced by CBS. But after that, they decided to throw all those shows into the bin in hopes of finding a younger, more sophisticated audience. Younger consumers between the ages of 18 and 50 are notorious for not having a sense of brand loyalty, making them especially attractive to corporate advertisers. In the late 60s, younger viewers who fit their ideal demographic were more so drawn to shows like Julia and the Mod Squad, which featured a more diverse cast of characters and were set in urban locales. This inspired an event that TV insiders later nicknamed the Rural Purge. The network's programming chief, Fred Silverman, first canceled Petticoat Junction in 1970 and replaced it with the hipper urban sitcom The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Next to go were the long-running, beloved yet aging shows like Mayberry RFD, Hee Haw, The Jim Nabors Show, Green Acres, Lassie, and The Beverly Hillbillies. The last remaining vestige of that era to get nixed was Gunsmoke, which was canceled after 20 seasons in 1975. Now it's time to hear from you. Which national TV network are you most partial to? ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.